We're going to return to Let's Play Shadows of New York, March 2020. Back at it again at Big Beat Burger. Familiar sounds, familiar smells, familiar faces. Yet again, I'm recalling that night when everything finally seemed to change for the better. I mean, it's not like I wasn't expecting everything to go back to the old depressing normal. Even in the thick of it, the rational part of me recognized my state as temporary. But with these highs, there's always a hope it won't end. Or maybe that an ego death will finally occur. No smoking, that's a nice touch. Be satisfied, you stupid fucking bitch, I command you. Here's all the logical evidence for why you should be satisfied. Here's the obvious direction for your life. And here's a detailed explanation of how you should treat the people that care for you. No dice. I always fall back into the same old habits. It's like they were encoded deep in my DNA. The aimlessness, the powerlessness, spiritual exhaustion. These goddamn fast food trips. Stupid fucking self-loathing, now amplified whenever I drink somebody's blood. Maybe I should just blame it all on the misfortune of my birth. You do this social climbing until you dissociate, and then you're just this untethered, constantly frustrated ball of dumb desires. Except I'm sort of immortal right now, and I need to figure out what to do next. I watched this obscure Asian movie once, Eli Eli Lema Sabachtani, starring Taranobu Asano, one of the coolest guys in the world. What? He plays this Mersbo-like figure, a legendary noise musician. There's this mysterious virus spreading around the world, causing despair and mass suicides. A rich CEO's granddaughter gets sick and longs to die, so he spends a fortune searching for the cure. Turns out Asano and his friend, played by this violent onsen geisha guy... What are we? Are traveling through Japan, searching the corpse-strewn towns and fields of any unique... My god, I apologize, I cannot read tonight. Searching the towns and fields for any unique item that can produce beautiful sounds. As it turns out, the avant-garde walls of noise they create are able to heal the infected. The CEO begs the band to help, offering them all the money they want, but for some reason they refuse. Through a series of flashbacks, concerts, and vignettes, a mystery unfolds. Eventually, we realize that Asano's music is not just a remedy, it's also a cause of the virus. Whenever it connects with people, they get this hunger for more extreme, more novel experiences. And eventually, they hit a wall. Nothing can satisfy them anymore. They lose their will to live. Not even the musicians are spared from this curse. They know the end will come, sooner or later. The girl is saved by a mind-blowing concert, but the tragedy is merely postponed, not averted. The last shot of a Jesus-like Asano silently considering his role as savior and destroyer stayed with me. The form of the film is abrasive, little to no narrative coherence, some weird cartoonish creative choices, the Japanese noise soundtrack, the very free-form and hard-to-understand weave of themes. But at this point, movies like this are all that truly connect with me. This is probably a real movie, just based on previous dialogue. I'm the New York City representative of the Lasombra clan now, also known as the Night Clan. They are masters of shadows who cast distorted reflections and make modern tech go haywire in their presence. Last year, a few months before I was embraced, the Lasombra had joined with the Camarilla, the biggest and most traditional sect in the vampire world. The two groups actually used to fight each other, but our leaders found some intel that made them reconsider their strategy, so they sent a diplomatic mission to parley with their historical enemies. The deal they got in Chicago was simple, an unlife for an unlife. For every Lasombra vampire allowed in the Ivory Tower, one Lasombra vampire has to meet their ultimate end. I still remember the name of the woman who met her final death so I could begin my unlife. Her name was Hester Reed, a sworn enemy of the Camarilla, a guerrilla fighter who spent decades opposing them. She was someone with far better principles than mine, from what I've gathered. Well, whoever she was, her execution by my sire served to convince the New York City elites to give us Lasombra a chance. Then, they set out to look for a mutually agreed-upon candidate who'd become the clan's rep in the city. My sire searched for someone who gave the impression she was more than she appeared. The local court was looking for someone they could walk all over. After long negotiations, they decided I was a good compromise. They proceeded to systematically destroy my entire life, just to make me show I was psychologically strong enough to join their ranks. The turncoat special, they called it. Somehow, I succeeded. And it eventually led me right back to where I started. Sigh. I stopped writing and put my pen down. We know you. Will that be all? Yes, Ms. Duval, I hope you enjoy your stay in London. Well, I very much doubt I will. Just like every cultured person, I think the only good Englishman is a dead Englishman. Let's just get the hell out of here. Oh, is this what we think or what we say? Because the parentheses seems to think she's the psycho from the last game, which would be this. Well, if we know anything about her, then we'd also think this too, so yeah, whatever. At least you're headed there to kill some of the Duskborn you hate so much. One of the benefits of being a scourge. If there's one thing this world is never in shortage of, it's loathsome runoffs who forfeited their right to live. That'll be all. Tell Kadir I said hello, and farewell. Safe travels. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, psycho. Oh well. I'm the lone Lasombra in this town, and my representational role means jack shit. No title, no perks, no whatever. Right now, I'm the court's gopher, doing all sorts of work nobody else will touch. My main duties, being a sort of immigration officer. See, New York City is probably the biggest vampire travel hub in the USA, and definitely the biggest one on the East Coast. Almost every kindred arriving from Africa and Europe comes through here. The local Camarilla is nuts about bureaucracy and population control, so every vampire leaving or arriving in this town is supposed to check with me to inform me about their travels. Well, in theory at least. The VIPs play by the different rules. They take care of this stuff through connections and servants. But for the smaller fish, I'm like a vampire Statue of Liberty. The first bloodsucker every kindred coming to New York City should see, on paper anyway. The first after the Prince, or Kadir, the Primogen Council. Oh. The Prince, or Kadir, the Primogen Council, these things vary. The Prince now is, well, probably still a puppet to that one guy then. I don't think he actually took over in the last game. Yeah, I'm a naturally treacherous Lasombra, so they still prefer being traditional and hands-on about these things. As I said, at the end of the day, I'm just a gopher, and this work only serves to remind me I'm not quite in, just standing at the gate. They haven't even given me an office. I just meet everyone in public places, such as coffee shops or this fast food restaurant. Some consider this an insult and lash out at me, but luckily most of them understand we're in the same boat, only here because we're curs who needed to be reminded of our place from time to time. Speaking of, my last client is 15 minutes late, and I still have more errands to run tonight. This is getting irritating. To be honest, I should just find some self-respect and leave, but I won't. My sorry upbringing left me with a stupid sense of responsibility. 10 more minutes pass. Eventually, an unfamiliar woman appears by the door. She tells someone to stand by the door and walks in. Long chestnut hair, body stuck in her late teens by the look of it, a fashionable scarf covering most of her face, elegant clothes, dignified walk. I signal her to sit in front of me, trying my best not to let my impatience show. She obliges. Well, okay. Here to check in? I am. Julia Sawinski, I presume. She's scanning her surroundings like we're at a circus. I hope you won't mind if I make it quick. I'm needed in Elysium. Name? Catherine Weiss. Huh. I swear I've heard that name before. Someone else's description of her crosses my mind. That weird lady who owns the art hole, but is never there? Weird. So it is her. Catherine Weiss, the owner of the art hole, de facto headquarters of the New York City Camarilla. For fuck's sake, Julia, what are you doing calling her weird right off the bat? God knows you've already made a fool of yourself in front of enough VIPs in this city. Recover. I'm sorry, it's just that I still don't know many people there, so I have to go by the descriptions I'm given by members of the Primogen. Well, the description is mostly correct, outside of that one word that slightly perplexes me. Pot calling the kettle black, sounds like. From what I gathered, it's just that your interests are rumored to be not fully aligned with the Camarillas, and it irks some folks up there. Being a keeper of the Elysium is not enough for some, I see. I suspected as much, but what can you do? But what can you do? Wrong inflection. She seems chill. Good. Anyway, Catherine Weiss, wow. Yes, want me to spell it? People often have trouble getting it right. Forgive my indiscretion, it's just that people of your stature usually don't bother checking in with me. They usually report their arrival to one of the Primogen, and they make all the arrangements. I heard Prince Bernard is busy with the preparations for her big party. I assumed that if I spared her some paperwork, she'd appreciate it as a gesture of goodwill. Besides, I wanted to meet the infamous Lasombra representative out of sheer curiosity. My interest peaked once I heard about her. She looks around knowingly. Her ... unique circumstances. I'm doing an awful job this episode. Yes, Prince Helena Bernard had trouble justifying the exorbitant rent my property would need. That's literally pennies for her. As far as I know, she's been sitting on an empty property since last year. Looks like they've got it out for you. Bad. That's what I had assumed, but it's nice to get a confirmation. Well, it's not like my clan has ever been particularly popular in these parts, not that I would really know that, it's only been a few months. At least that's what I've heard. Sins of the fathers and so on. Yes, just to make sure you've never met Hester, but... Just to make sure, you've never met Hester, but you know of her. I do know I wouldn't be here if not for her. Have you two met? No, I only heard of her once or twice. We had similar outlooks on many issues, although we tended to come up with completely different solutions. In any case, I think it's meaningful that Hester died so that you could live. They feared her, now they fear you, and that's why they're keeping you down. If anyone who's not a VIP said this to me, I'd laugh in their face. Well, I get what she's doing. She's trying to buy my favors. Just not to act like I'm easy to please. Stick to business. Time will tell. In the meantime, I'll need you to help me out with my documentation. Of course. So where are you coming from? Washington, D.C. She says it the way people in Hollywood movies say it. Washington, D.C., then. The way that suggests her Washington is wildly different from the Washington you and I would see. What were you doing there? Take a guess. Government work? Write that down. How to amuse Helena a bit. If you say so. Date and hour of arrival? She takes out a plane ticket and slides it towards me. It's all here. 1 a.m. Got it. Method of transit? Plane. Purpose of visit? Meeting with Prince ought to work just fine. Guess. Estimated duration of visit? Defined. Write in 6 months if you really need to. Place of accommodation. Conditions of intended stay. The art hall. Conditions should be adequate. You tell me. I tend to be happy with Airbnb. Home sweet home? I'm not certain I ever felt particularly at home here. That makes two of us. Curious, you have nothing holding you here? The face of a blonde-haired friend appears in my mind's eye, then vanishes. There's nothing holding me anywhere. I see. A prolonged silence. She stares into my eyes, and I return the stare. She's studying me. It's unnerving, but I do my best not to turn away. Eventually, she smiles, not that I could see that because she's covering her face. Didn't you say we were short on time? Oh, God, yes. Kadir will kill me. I quickly begin to collect my stuff from underneath the table. You can simply inform him I paid you a visit. He'll understand, and he'll pass it on to everyone who shouldn't be in the know. I'll do that. Good. We will see each other soon, I hope. The party tomorrow night? I wasn't invited. She gives me a pitying look. I understand. Well, if not given the opportunity, we should make our own. I'll be in touch. Good night, Miss Weiss. I wish you a pleasant stay. Good night, and don't rush these things. You've got your whole unlife ahead of you, and you're in a position where you can take it easy. Take your time. Get a different perspective. I nod and walk slowly out the door. When I lose sight of the restaurant, I sprint toward the subway. Slow night? I wish he's had a haircut, or at least he's just wearing it differently. You're late again, by the way. I hope you have a good excuse. Dear Al-Azmai, the mighty sheriff of New York City, is not happy with me. No wonder. I met him in front of Elysium 30 minutes later than the time we had agreed on. Yeah, well, Catherine fucking Weiss decided to arrive fashionably late. A likely story. She's supposed to be out of the city. If you think I'm pulling your leg, boss, feel free to check my report. I pass him all the official papers the way I do every other night. Kadir stares me down for a good few seconds, then his steely gaze softens. You're serious? Weiss and McDonald's with the... Was it McDonald's? What is it actually established that does that? With the mask and elegant clothes, surrounded by the smell of French fries and hamburger patties? It must have been one hell of a sight. Technically, it was BBB, not McDonald's. But yeah, God, I made such a fool of myself. First thing I did, I quoted somebody calling her a weirdo. I wanted to die on the spot. Serves you right, you walking faux pas. I've been trying to teach you to control your tongue, but you never learn. It's a new gaffe every week with you. Still, there's good news and bad news. The good news is Catherine has a fondness for vampires of humble beginnings. Beginnings. Probably why she decided to see you in your, shall we say, natural habitat. She's one of those rich art scene assholes who seek out working class cred. I did say something about watching her tongue. The bad news is she is very astute, so she can recognize a moron like you straight away. You never stood a chance impressing her. He's a little bit more sassy than he was in the previous game. Oh, shut up. You still need me for anything here? I'll get on it right straight away. I wouldn't be standing out here chatting with you if I hadn't taken care of my duties. 30 minutes is all it took to finish preparations for the big party. I'm about to see everyone off. Sorry. Couldn't be helped, I suppose, and it's more your loss than mine. I just wanted some company tonight, and you could really use the chance to appear here on official duties so everyone can get to know your face. Everyone knows your fast food job isn't going to get you anywhere. You need to... what do they call it? Hustle? You don't need to tell me that. It's not like being paraded around for a bunch of blue-blooded douchebags is... He somehow manages to give me a painful nudge in the back without so much as a hint of visible movement. Language, you fool, they're coming out. Stand here in silence for 5 minutes and focus on not embarrassing yourself any further, will you? Got it. The first two silhouettes appear in the doorway of the art hole. An old man in a wheelchair, pushed forward by his young servant. Haven't seen either of them before. Also, if this is the entrance to the art hole, that is not wheelchair accessible. About to have a bumpy ride. Yeah, we don't recognize him. Mr. Payne, the night is still young. Hope you find the rest of it pleasant. Payne, the wheelchair. I've heard about him. Addison Payne, one of the American Camaria's main connections to the government and Wall Street. Disabled in quite a few ways. Needs a servant to communicate. I'd be full of resentment if I was embraced in this condition, but apparently Payne is nothing but grateful. kidding me. She sends her regards. She did say she will attend the party. Her negative reaction intrigues me, so I decide to give her another nudge. She told me to send her regards and that she absolutely can't wait to catch up. Cheeky. That hint of torment on her face is less than I was counting on, but it will do. Weiss. Excellent. I'd love to catch up with her. I have a feeling that she's got like an Irish accent, but I'm not doing that. The barely concealed venom in her voice clearly suggests that, in fact, she'd hate to catch up with her. Yes, it looks like tomorrow night will be very special, but for now, I bid you adieu. And she's gone. There's some kind of story between Aisling and Weiss that I should be aware of. That part about sending regards, that was a bold-faced lie, wasn't it? An innocent one. Overselling someone's courtesies is just good etiquette. You're unbelievable. Well, I doubt High Regent Sturbridge took it as a courtesy, considering she once attempted to call for a blood hunt on Weiss. Wow, why? I've heard 5 different versions of the story, and all of them seem plausible. Catherine's relationship with this city is odd, to say the least. But hush for now. He's obviously trying to kill the conversation, and the appearance of Thomas Arturo, yes, this guy, gives him a perfect way out. Mr. Arturo. Alasmai. Keep up the good work, eh? Of course. Thomas Arturo, an architect by trade. He's a herald, a member of Prince Penard's inner circle and her puppet master, according to the last game, an eccentric whose thoughts seem to be 10 times faster than his words. Take care on your way, the way to your haven, Mr. Arturo. Yes. He disappears into the night. That was brief. Maybe I should stand in their way. I might force them to properly acknowledge my existence. You severely underestimate their dedication to ignoring whelp psycho. And just in case you're serious, I beg of you don't. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while now, but never had the opportunity. You really hate Arturo's guts, don't you? He carefully measures his diplomatic response. I have no strong feelings about Thomas Arturo whatsoever. Yeah, well, considering you're always listing positives about every local Camarilla representative under the moon, you might as well have called him a cunt. Language whelp. And as for Arturo, I will share my opinion about him as soon as I come up with one that sticks for more than a week. A group of kindred emerges from the art hole, rushing towards the street. Only a noble-looking woman stops next to us. She's wearing a hijab, but curiously enough, doesn't hide her hair beneath it. Primogen. If you were rude enough to stare, you'd quickly notice the clothes serves mostly to cover up her horrifying scars. Kadir. Oh, and young Julia. I'm doing my best not to stare because Samira is one of the few New York City Camarilla figures who hasn't been an asshole to me yet. Still here? The prince require the clan of the Hunt's counsel in some matter. So I keep wanting to go check out this. We'll do so in a minute here. Yes, I advised her that no matter how hard she tries, she shouldn't expect me to wear a different costume tomorrow night. She's the Banu Hakeem Primogen. Just like the Lasombra, their clan was independent from the Camarilla until relatively recently. However, they negotiated a better deal than we did. They have a Primogen for one. Hailing from the Middle East, the Banu Hakeem are drawn to the practice of justice. The rules must be upheld, and every transgression punished. They don't have much say in New York City, but the prince often seeks their judgment. It's just good PR. I trust she was understanding. Those are beautiful clothes. Thank you so much. I am eager to see the outfit you came up with. And how are you, Julia? Have you seen any lights at the end of the tunnel? I mean, complaining about this might get me invited. Yeah. They haven't even invited me to the party tomorrow. I'm sorry to hear that. I trust you're pestering the prince and your superiors to improve your standing? It's a process. Oh, Julia, you won't achieve anything if you don't keep reaching for it. Gideon, weren't you supposed to teach her the ropes? I'm trying to, Primogen. But with this child, it's always a process. I can only wish you good luck, then. Good night, Julia. Good night, Gideon. Good night. Heavy strafe trip. The art hole has to be almost empty by now. You like her, don't you? Stop with your class clown act, Whelp. It only serves to reveal deep insecurities. He is much more talkative than he was in the previous game. Wow, that's harsh. It's factual. Were I as harsh as you claim, she did tell us both to call her Samira, but you're still keeping your distance with that Primogen shit. Much profanity. And don't project your fantasies onto me. I won't give you a lesson about professional boundaries, but I suspect the way you will eventually learn it will be extremely unpleasant. What the hell is with this guy? Am I interrupting something, good folks? Even though I'm constantly pestering him, Kadir's composure is unshaken. His response comes swift and unfazed. Not at all, Mr. Van der Weyden. Van der Weyden? Van der Weyden. Heading back to your office? You know me, my dear sheriff. Where else would I go? Now that's curious. Even though Carter Van der Wagen is a Primogen as well, Alcavian to be precise. Oh good, he's crazy. I don't hear Kadir address him as such. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Oh, I will absolutely show up, provided I can. But just in case, I already apologize for not making it to the prince. Simply drowning in work these days. The rhythms, tempo, and intonation patterns of his voice are so familiar. Half of it sounds like JFK, the other half exactly like Barack Obama. Oh my god. Well, I'm going to have to remember that character because, just like his appearance, it all feels so fake. How do you gotta give Obama a Boston accent? He's old money, of course, comes from a long line of Dutch merchants who originally settled in the New York region, runs a wildly successful law office, rubs elbows with elite of both kindred and kind varieties alike. He seems perfect in every way, and that's why he's so unnerving. He's a child of Malkav, and must be blighted with some affliction, but whatever it is, he doesn't let it show. Hard not to wonder what he's hiding. The celebrations are planned to last all week. Surely you will find the time. I pray I will, my good man, I pray I will. In case you need to reach me, you know where to find me. Have a good one. He doesn't even register my presence before leaving. Sometimes I think they're all still hoping I'll simply go away. As Carter drives away in his limousine, Kadir shakes his head. You wanted to hear about which member of New York City Camarilla I dislike the most? Yes. He shoots me a knowing glance and smirks. Too bad. They're all my dear colleagues, and I deeply respect every single one of them. Sure you do. Wouldn't want to blurt out something like that. So, can this night be over already? Wouldn't want to blurt out something that could lock you out of Mr. Van der Weyden's, Van der Wagen's, Volkswagen's legal services, would you, you ass-kisser? I do expect to find myself in need of a good defense attorney when my broke, incompetent, and foul-mouthed assistant finally pushes me over the edge. Rude. You still need me here. I still need to swing by St. Patrick's tonight. Don't worry, we're almost done. The prince is coming out. The captain is the last person to leave the ship, huh? And there she is, Helena Bernard, the big kahuna, as someone I once knew would call her, the de facto ruler of New York City and a self-professed patron of the arts. Kadir, a penny for your thoughts. You should be pleased to hear the High Regent is resigned to her fate, my prince. Mr. Van der Weyden is decidedly not. I suspect he will be too busy to join the festivities all the week through. Excellent. She turns to me. Miss Sawinski, weren't you supposed to accompany our good sheriff in his duties tonight? There was an unexpected change of plans. Catherine Weiss is back in the city. Catherine is here? Well, that's a welcome surprise. What does it have to do with you, Miss Sawinski? I took care of her paperwork. I mean, it's not a lie. She said she didn't want to trouble you with all the paperwork regarding her arrival, Prince Bernard. It's all been taken care of. Kadir's already been informed of everything. Well, that's certainly a nice gesture, but wait a minute now. Where exactly did you meet her? In a fast food restaurant, my prince. I see. Helena rubs her eyes. Catherine and her love for proletarian amusement. I suppose it will be a source of amusing anecdotes this week. If we want to avoid these situations in the future, it might be a good time to discuss offering Ms. Sawinski an office of her own. We'll get to it eventually. There are more pressing matters at hand. The festivities start tomorrow, and there's still so much to be done. Will you make sure the art hole is secure before leaving? Certainly, my prince. Have a good night. Good night, Kadir. Good night, Miss Sawinski. We'll talk about your work soon, don't worry. Of course. Good night, Prince Bernard. The chauffeur escorts her to a limo. There's an awkward silence between me and Kadir until the car disappears around the corner. More pressing matters, huh? A penny for your thoughts, Sheriff? I'm certain an image of a keeper of the Elysium stuck in a fast food restaurant will linger in Prince Bernard's mind. You're far closer to your goal than you were a few minutes ago. I'm pretty sure I've heard you say something to that effect a few times now. And I will stand by my words. Rome wasn't built in a day, Julia. As a Camarilla loyalist, don't you think it sucks that the Ivory Tower is so hell-bent on showing disrespect to my clan? They're actually willing to make fools of themselves in the process. Whatever. We've all had to endure our own hazing rituals, but yes, the current situation is not ideal. Whatever. You need a hand closing up the Elysium. I'll manage. It's getting late. Better run. Some shadow in Chicago is probably impatient to get a copy of the reports you've given me. You've pleased one master, now it's time to please the other. Yeah, here's the thing about working for two masters. Neither of them really thinks of you as their own. Not knowing how to reply, Kadir shrugs. I wave to him goodbye and head for the subway. When I reach St. Patrick's Cathedral, I am greeted by a voice that grates on me like teeth on tinfoil. Are we still having to deal with the Inquisition hanging around this place? Benoit. We talked to him before, yeah? This was the guy that we ended up sucker punching, I think? In the previous game? Well, the prodigal daughter returns. Oh my god, no. This is the one thing I didn't want to happen. Juliet, please, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Uh-huh. Where's Father Leonard? His clergy duties keep him from getting here on time. He sent me to apologize in his name and keep you company for a few minutes. That's the second thing he ought to apologize for. He just wants his flock to live in unity. I'm more than willing to oblige him. Why won't you? For the last time, I'm not part of his flock. We have a purely professional arrangement. I know you see it that way. The Knight Clan's tendency to stick close to the Catholic Church is their greatest virtue, but they still consider their relationship purely instrumental. Yeah, so that's the thing about the Lasombra. Apparently, of all the clans, they are the most religious. I think I mentioned before that they, being part of the Sabbat, believe every word of the story of Cain and the history of the vampires through the biblical lineage and all that. This is why we need kindred like you to bring the spiritual change to your clan, to make them understand God's precious gifts. The closer they'd get to the light, the greater their shadows would become. Now, that's an interesting thing because, what is the actual book called? There's a second book to the Book of Nod, and it deals with the story of Lilith. And it was in fact Lilith who gave Cain the gifts of vampirism. All the curses came from God, but the abilities and all that come through the line of Cain and Lilith. Anyway, again with his insufferable sermonizing. Benoit Segal here is a local nutjob and an ex-artist, a degenerate who had some sort of complete mental breakdown in the 90s. To recover, he took to religion for solace and guidance. At first, he proclaimed his readiness to devote the rest of his unlife to studying Nodism. After a few years, though, he changed his mind and joined the Catholic Church instead. As luck would have it, his neophyte zeal found a major target in me, my Christ. When I first met him, I was stupid enough to tell him I was raised Catholic and still identified as such. Somewhat. He immediately pictured me as some sort of force for change within the Camarilla and set out to put me back on the righteous path. Now he won't stop preaching to me, apparently, until I become a nun. Remember, the darkest place is directly beneath the candle. You turncoats have this unfortunate predisposition to find salvation right within your grasp and then lose your way in the shadows. Christ, once he starts, he just won't stop. I guess it's time to bring out the big guns. By the way, I've been meaning to ask, got any news about Sophie Langley? A painful grimace crosses his face, but doesn't linger. Kind of rude to change the subject, you know? Rude. I'm just looking for a topic both sides of this conversation would care about. You know, like any guide on etiquette says you should. Salvation is a topic close to anyone's heart, whether they admit it or not, and it's pretty bold of you to assume I still care about Langley. I do not assume. I'm certain you do. The second she retires from the public eye, you stop acting like Jesus-era Kanye and start acting like Jesus is King-era Kanye. Confidence? Coincidence? Can't read? Illiteracy? I've never had a Yeezus era. Do people really call it that? I don't know that. Jesus, I'm so out of it. No. Here's how it's going to work. Tell me what you know, I'll tell you what they say, and keep in mind I didn't know she was your sire until a few nights ago. Hell, I haven't even met her, and you never will. He winces a bit at me saying hell, but lets it go. Sure. I figure you would have prodded that wound long ago if you knew. But what do you care anyway? Better to let you drone on about your tormented past than let you carry on with your good missionary shtick. Professional courtesy, curiosity, and everything in between apparently because, God damn it, once a journalist, always a journalist. He scratches his head, then exhales in a sad mockery of a chuckle. Fine then, I'll do my best to make it short. Oh god, this isn't going to be short at all. Just like you said, Sophie Langley, every New York kindred's beloved socialite, was my sire. We first met sometime after World War II. I left France right before the Nazis went around the Maginot Line. I struggled to keep my siblings alive with my art. Watched my brother die during the flu epidemic of '43. I was close to losing my mind. That's when she showed up, said the sheer torment in my works caught her eye. She became my patron, allowed my talents to flourish, and supported me financially. Eventually, she embraced me. As a well-off kindred, my artistic interests started to naturally deviate from what they used to be back when I was a poor mortal upstart. I began to see the world the way her social circle does, and that she couldn't forgive. Instead of being a fun novelty, I became just another part of the malaise surrounding her. She grew distant and then stopped seeing me altogether. I've had my share of meltdowns because of this, I won't deny that. I locked myself out of many career opportunities, but it was an important lesson. Don't trust your elders. Vampirism affects them psychologically as well. If they take interest in you, they won't stop until they suck your soul dry and then discard you like a broken toy. For the first time since I've known him, Seagal registers to me as something other than a Bible-thumping nuisance. Is it compassion I feel? Do I find him relatable? How dreadful. It's possible he's strategically trying to elicit sympathy. Maybe he heard about my dramatic exit from Lodestar, or maybe he's just alluding to the way my sire left me here to fend for myself. It is only God who will never lead you astray. This is why I find your act so I mean, it's hard to... And this guy was a former student of Nodism? He knows the story and history of vampires? This is why I find your act so frustrating, Julia. We're so close to getting it, but you choose sin instead. Actually, thinking more upon the history of Lilith, I think she herself learns all this stuff from Lucifer. Through the story of Nodism, Lucifer is on the earth as one of the immortals who is trying to make it, or he has one of his own gardens. I think there's 13 gardens, one including Eden. And according to the story, I wish I could remember the name of the book. You could probably easily find it on the World of Darkness source book stuff. But anyway, so Jehovah is basically one of these garden tenders, and it kind of implies that he's on equal footing with the 13 other garden creators, that he's not actually a supreme being. Anyway, Lilith, cast out of Eden, wanders, finds Lucifer, says that she wants to learn the method for creating her own garden. They couple. She takes her magic and leaves, and then eventually finds Cain and gives him the gift. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting lore. Anyway, there's the Benoit Seagal I know. Almost had me fooled. Let's get back on track. What about Langley's disappearance from the city? Her path was a road to perdition. Wherever she ended up, I doubt she's too happy about it. I doubt she cares anymore. She had plans for the future of this city, wanted to make it her ultimate artwork. She was always the vain one. And of course, you are completely sure you have nothing to do with her disappearance. No, but I met the guy who last saw her. Please don't tell me you're getting at what I think you're getting at. Everybody says you've been acting like you're trying to repent for something ever since her vanishing act, and you've got a motive. Of course I'm getting at what you think I'm getting at. Benoit shakes his head. You really have the devil in your heart, Julia, always testing me. Just asking what everyone's thinking. Are they now? Listen, I'm familiar with a lot of the insults attached to my name in this city. Those aren't exactly compatible with the image of a ruthless killer. Killer, huh? Now that's interesting. I haven't said anything about killing. He scrubs his hands over his forehead and collects himself before responding. Stop picking apart every word I say in this completely unpleasant way. Here's a statement if you really want one, Ms. Hercule Poirot. This guy. Didn't I bring this up in did I bring this up in the last one? Yeah, because I confused this guy with, I almost said Cujo. Whatever. What the fuck? I do believe Sophie, the way I knew her, has met her end. Even if she's still walking this earth, she wouldn't come back here as the same prideful aristocrat. She'd have to undergo a spiritual rebirth. Someone has reminded her of her place. Her former friends talk of her in hushed voices. Even that servant play toy of her went missing. Oh. No more Camarilla parties. She's done for. Whatever happened to her, I don't know. I swear on Jesus and his sandals I had nothing to do with it. But yes, I'm still here and she's not. And it's not a reason to gloat, but to be more humble. I received a sign from God telling me to re-examine all the unfortunate ways I still resemble Sophie Langley. And I listened. I rejected the pride I shared with her. I renewed my vows to God, recommitted to preaching his greatness. I mean, this is why we're having this conversation in the first place. So the father, then must not be a part of the Inquisition? Because surely he would know. Right now, when I think of Langley's influence on my life, I'm grateful because she was a sign that got me here. And, if God wills it, maybe one day you'll look at her the same way, Julia. Having never met her, Julia would probably not. Mental note, whenever he circles back to this preachy tone, it's time to intervene. Alright. If it makes you feel any better, I think the only way a wimp like you could have hurt her is by boring her to death with Bible quotes. Now then, quid pro quo, tit for tat. You were saying people still talk about me. I was curious if... Oh, look, who's finally here? Stalling for time worked. Father Leonard rushes in our direction, carrying a folder of documents under his arm. I assume it's the one I came here for. Father Leonard? Oh, this is a completely different guy. Christ be praised. Julia, yesterday, I was told this is how priests greet their parishioners in Eastern Europe. Oh, Christ be praised, Julia. Let's see what fuck. Is this not over yet? Forever and ever, amen. Actually, I think we said each other's lines. Never mind. Another long night? Isn't it taking a toll on you? Ah, no need to worry. These days I sleep a few hours a day, short naps take care of the rest, and there's always work to be done. I apologize for being late. At least I managed to get here before you and Benoit went for each other's throats. Good. I was getting worried. Oh, who do you take me for, Father? He takes you for a total bozo who's about as effective at converting people as a documentary about pedophilia in the Catholic Church. He's just too kind to say it out loud. Ouch. Hear what I have to deal with, Father. But don't worry. We'll make a saint of her yet. Forget saint. Now, for now, I'd settle for an adult in the room. I mean... we could keep poking at him. Why not? You do remember he's at least 70 years older than I am, right? As far as I'm concerned, growing up has far less to do with age than with the conditions of our formative years. Here. He gives me a folder he was carrying with him, and I pass him the reports I wrote earlier tonight. Among kindred, it's common knowledge that the Catholic Church is one of the Lasombra's greatest assets. Hell, it might even be one of the main reasons the Camarilla is slowly warming up to the clan. We are technologically impaired, and as such woefully unprepared to face the challenges of communicating in the 21st century. Hard to handle advanced encryption when you can't even unlock a smartphone. This is where the Vatican connections enter the picture. A web of priests scattered all around the world exchange our dispatches between each other, making sure they all reach their destinations in total secrecy. I was told not everyone in the Holy See is friendly to our kind, but the most shrewd and talented usually are. You could say they're like a mortal camarilla, better than any intelligence agency. Remember what happened to John Paul I when he attempted to uncover the workings of the Institute for the Works of Religion? Don't. Death after 33 days of papacy, rumors of CIA and Masonic involvement. Not that Father Leonard has anything to do with any of this. For a Catholic priest, he's all right. He'd probably have me stay a believer. He'd probably have made me stay a believer a few years longer than I did had I known him as a teenager. Leonard is intelligent, kind, helpful towards his parishioners, treats his superiors with a healthy dose of skepticism, and is not involved in any sort of political church games. Well, at least not beyond helping me contact my bosses in Chicago every other night or so. He knows about the kindred, and he knows about the Second Inquisition. He opted to avoid the latter in order to keep the former from oppression, because according to him, it's the right thing to do. I know there's got to be something wrong with him, some self-motivation maybe, and I haven't nailed it down yet, but it doesn't feel like he's making an effort to hide it, so I'm giving him a pass. By the way, I hope you don't mind, I finally took the liberty of asking how your parents are doing. Thank you, Father, but you shouldn't have. Not a problem. Priest at St. Stanislaus Koska is a good friend. He says your parents started showing up every Sunday again. Front rows. Your father is looking better and better. It makes me feel nothing, but I still give him a token nod and a grateful smile. Thank you, Father Leonard. Now, if you'll excuse me, the sunrise is almost here. Yes, be careful, and God bless you. Amen. Goodbye, Julia. I'll let you off the hook this time, but next time you won't be so lucky, all right? Sure. Just one more thing on my never-ending list of events I'm not looking forward to. Guess it's time to call it a night. I'm home. Finally. You doing all right? And this is Dakota. Does the game ever give me an ending point? Fine, I guess. Why aren't you asleep? I figured it's finally time for me to become more of a night owl. We've talked about making our schedules sync better. I'm guessing she's mortal. Watch your vitamin D. I'd kill to have your skin. Be ashamed to waste it. Shouldn't have spoken so much before you got bitten, sweetheart. Doesn't this go against the, traditions? Should have shared your skincare routine with me back when I was still breathing. I can't just be going around sharing my one secret weapon. My one secret weapon. It's top secret stuff. MK Ultra level. Jeffrey Epstein's current whereabouts level. I'd have to kill you if I told you. I have a secret weapon too. Do I? Fair, my kind also has a secret anti-aging weapon after all, but hey, if you don't care about that... And what would that be? Adrenochrome? Close. Spirit cooking. What? Talking about right now? Just so we're clear, you're shitting me, right? Of course I'm shitting you. We just drink blood. Nothing too satanic about that. Funny, because whenever I see your chest, I'm surprised there's no cross-shaped burn mark there. Well, since you mention it, never mind. I feel a little more self-conscious than usual tonight. Don't. You want me to do your makeup before you go to sleep? Before you go to sleep? No need. It stays forever. We're just supposed to have some sort of big party tomorrow night. I was involved in the backstage stuff. What makes you think I was invited? Because you're the coolest, cutest, and most all-round amazing person I know? It'd be insane not to put you on the short list. Click. Believe it or not, most vampires are pretty insane. Interdimensional psychic vampire level insane, because that's how crazy they'd have to be to ignore you like this. Can we just get to it, please, so I can end this this episode? This is driving me nuts. Yeah, I'd say so. Fuck them then. A big bunch of posh dicks. They hate you because they ain't you. They'll see. Jesus, how do you do it? Do what? You always assault me with so much of this weird, stupid positivity that I can't react to without completely shifting my mental attitude. How do you do it? Well, the answer's easy. You remember how I told you we have this spiritual connection? I can sense what you feel and want. You can sense what I feel, too, if you really focus. Yeah, I think I called it a big load of bullshit. Instead a girl who talks to ghosts. But watch this, Agent Scully. I sensed you feeling down, and I realized what you really needed to end this night. She points to one of her drawers. It's the one where she keeps her supply of... ketamine? Come on. What? No, wrong drawer. We're not meeting demons, we're meeting angels. MDMA? Ding, ding, ding. Took it half an hour ago. Perfect timing. Thanks to our spiritual connection. Ready to fly away? The mood isn't right. I'd need music. Got a special SoundCloud playlist ready to go. I mean... yeah. The integration of real-world things just kind of... Anyway, prepared specifically to uplift one Julia Sawinski. Just give me a sign and I'll press play. Jesus, you're impossible. That's why you love me, I hope. I give up. Come here, let me have a taste of you. Maybe this one time the high won't end. Thank Jeebus. Thank Jehovah, thank Cain and Lilith and Lucifer. This episode... I don't know what the hell was wrong with me for this episode, but I could not read to save my life. We'll go through the new terminology next time. I'll end this one here. See you next time.